Hey, how's it going? I'm here as this little introductory orientation type video. It's not comprehensive, but I think I can walk you through a couple of things that I want you to look at first. Maybe give you a little bit of a insight into what I'm doing here. As you can see, the screen that I have up, it's probably a little different than the screen that you have. It's probably got a little more commands here. Um, I'm going to go ahead and change to the student view so that I see what you're seeing and I can walk you through a little bit of what's going on, maybe explain what you will and won't see at first. I'm going to start with the 300 and then later on in probably another video, I'm going to be giving you some idea about what some of these timelines mean and maybe help you out, help you navigate at least initially, depending on what you can see. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so this should be a little closer to what you see. On the right, I have my to-do list, which may have something to do with sort of all of the things that I was building at the time. As you can see, some of these are really far into the future. So I'm honestly not real clear on why my to-do list is so populated at the moment. But if it is, don't let that scare you. Not all of this stuff is like to do right now. Depending, I think, on how your setup is, you may get these all at once, or you may just get the most current ones. Whatever it is, you can always email me and let me know what you see, because obviously I can only see what I can see. But if you are confused by some of those, definitely let me know. Maybe not right away, but let me know kind of what's going on maybe in the Zoom session so that I know how to adjust it. I've tried to work with some of the release stuff, but once again, I may be seeing something different than you. So don't freak out if you see a bunch of these because I don't intend for all of these to sort of be due right away. Some of these are pretty stretched out. But on that note, that's the first thing that I see that might be a little bit um, confusing or at least have a question about. I'd say don't get overly confused by that, but definitely see how your to-do list is being released. I'm going to go over to what I would do is if I were a student, I would go to these modules here because that's kind of how I built it. I built it around the modules. You can go to announcements too because there will be some stuff, some information. But at first, what I would see is my eye is drawn to the module idea because that's kind of how I'm looking at it. As you can see here on the main page, there are some links. Make sure to keep track of these, at least know that they're there, because these are links to these particular sections. I know that you're probably most of my students are pretty online savvy, so you kind of know what that means is that these are I don't know if you still call them hot links, but they're links to these particular areas that they're referring to. So you can pay attention to those. They're not necessarily there as a guide through because, like I said, I built these in terms of modules, like sort of a sequential module, rather than just going through hot links. But that is a way to navigate it if it makes sense to you, if you want to look at everything as you're reading it. I don't have a ton. I don't know if a ton would be appropriate to say. I mean, there's a number of them. I kind of know how to do it, so I guess I do it a lot. So what I would do is I would initially either go to announcements if I want to see what sort of the current announcements are. I'll do that real quick. As right now, the announcement is probably mostly information that you've already seen if you received either the email, the initial, or the follow-up. So I'm not going to go necessarily into that. It's just sort of like, hey, thank you for signing up for my class. I know it's weird, that kind of thing. And I do mean that. I just don't want to spend time on it right now. So I'm going to go over to the modules and take a look at that. And what you'll see here is you have a start here that you've probably already able to look at. And I won't go too much deeply into that except for the fact that you guys probably should have at least taken a look at it. And if you haven't, definitely take a look at it as quickly as you can. Because it does have some sort of all college stuff. Not necessarily overly specific to this class, just readiness stuff, just to give you an insight into what online learning is if you're not familiar, and even if you are familiar, sort of how the school navigates it. This course overview grid is interesting probably initially because you're not going to be able to see most of this right away. And in fact, you can kind of see that these are modules that are built, but you cannot access them yet. These are set to release, as you can see at the bottom, on particular dates. Okay, so you can kind of look at that. You can scroll through that and see that this is pretty set out, and you can probably even sort of guess at some of these modules and what they mean. But they are not set to be released simply because I don't want to overwhelm you, and the class is sort of designed to be paced in a certain way. Not that I don't think some of you could just whip through these, but that's not sort of how SEC classes are designed. It's not really what they call best practices to release everything all at once, because as much as it might be enjoyable for a few of you, it would be way more confusing to most of you. And I would probably get a lot of stuff that I would have to look at with a skeptical eye, because you wouldn't have the walkthrough that I'm planning on giving you. So, not that I don't have faith in you, it's just best practices to release these week at a time, because it replicates not only the semester, but it is the best way for most people to learn. So otherwise it becomes sort of a correspondence course, which I don't know, maybe there's some for-profit colleges that offer those, I don't know. But in this sense, it's a different kind of class. So an online class is in many ways paced pretty precisely to what you would be doing in a face-to-face class, because that's kind of how I've been trained, and that's how I know how to teach. So as for this stuff you can't see, you will probably, even by the time you either view this video or very soon, within a couple of days of this recording, this first module will be released, okay? The introduction to the course materials module is just that. It's an introduction to the course materials, and it's just designed, it's not real heavy lifting. It looks like, initially like, oh my God, there's a quiz, there's a discussion, there's this, there's that, but it's really not super heavy lifting. It's really just designed to get you to go through it in a diligent way, okay? And some of these quizzes, like especially these initial quizzes, you can take over and over again. So don't stress out too much about seeing the idea of a quiz. And which brings me to my second point, is that the other thing that I will do is I will embed videos often. As you can see, you can probably already tell that there's a video here. In this introduction, I think I have another video. There's another video there. The video pacing is kind of weird for me, because I'm talking to myself as much as it seems like I have a pretty good idea of audience. I guess I'm just sort of good at talking to nobody in a room and pretending like they're there. My wife would probably tell you that I'm very good at that. But I have to keep reminding myself to maybe slow down or be more deliberate with things. So if every now and again you see a video that kind of speeds a little bit in terms of my talking, if I get excited about a topic, don't let that stress you out, because each one of these videos, I record them in parts so that each one of them is not more than 12 minutes or so. So they're pretty easy to navigate by topic. So if you do find yourself sort of, what did he say? It's like it's going too fast, or I watched the whole thing and I'm still a little confused. You can always go back and make sure to pause if you need a second, if you need to write something down, if there's a reference that you think you might return to. The reason I break them up into not these super long 30-minute, hour-long lectures. First of all, it's kind of weird to just talk in a room for an hour to nobody. At least I think so. But it also allows for an easier navigation. Okay, so meaning that if you do need to go back, you can look at 12 minutes, a topic. You don't have to sort of find out if it was, remember that it was 37 minutes and 18 seconds in and write that down, and then know that you have to return to that, or it was in that hour-long lecture. I don't want to see the whole lecture just to find that one bit of information. I am aware of that. Okay, and so these videos are designed to be helpful, but sometimes the information can speed past a little bit, whether it's my talking or whether it's just too much information at once. Not all of them are like that, but depending on how you access them, just know that the videos, I guess they're the best user interface that I can by making them a little bit less than a full lecture. And even if it is a longer lecture, it's going to be broken up. So I hope that introduces you to at least what you should initially be looking at. The only other thing that I may make a note of now, because as these are released, I'll give you more information at the very least in the 108. This is all 300 stuff. If you look at the grades here, one little bit of warning is that these are not all of the assignments, okay? It's going to look pretty complete, but I may wind up adding in the later parts to this particular grading section because even though this, I'll scroll down, this looks really, I'll go past to where I have everything really, really broken down. Some of this stuff, like some of these modules, are not complete in the sense that, you know, they may not have been scaffolded out as well. So what you'll probably see as the semester progresses is that these are going to be filled in a little bit more. And so as a result, I'll scroll back up. I'll go to the grades. So as a result, this grade that you're going to be, these grades point system thing you're going to be looking at is going to be added onto. So I'm on the grading screen now that has sort of a breakdown of all of the things, and then at the bottom you can see, you know, percentage of this, percentage of that. These percentages are really helpful probably, but know that these points are not, one point here is not necessarily the same as a point on a paper. For example, it gets a little bit confusing if you're trying to keep track of it sort of as a minute by minute thing. But as an overall picture, it should probably make a lot more sense the deeper we go into the semester and the more these things get filled out. Okay, so if you have any more questions, definitely let me know in the live session, but I'm going to break this up so that I can get into the 108 and then show you a little bit about the timelines there. Okay, hope this is helpful. I'll see you soon.